right, let's talk man to man. There's a topic that for a lot of us guys over 50, 60, and beyond often gets swept under the rug. Or maybe it just fades away without us really noticing, until we do notice, and then it feels like a giant unspoken thing in the room. I'm talking about intimacy, sex, and yes, even masturbation. Now, hold on, before you think this is going to be some awkward clinical lecture, let me assure you it's not. This is about real life, about how we feel, how our bodies work or sometimes don't the way they used to, and importantly, what happens when this part of our lives goes quiet. Many of us grew up with certain ideas about sex, some of them probably outdated, and we've carried those habits and beliefs right into our older years. Sometimes, without even realizing it, this silence, this lack of intimacy, can be causing harm. It's not just about missing a bit of fun. It's deeper than that. So, what's the big deal anyway? The silent harm we don't talk about. You might be thinking, okay, I'm not as active as I used to be. So what? Isn't that just part of getting older? And yeah, things change, that's for sure. But when we talk about neglecting our sexual health, it's not just about the act itself. It's about a whole cascade of effects on our overall well-being. Think about it. That physical connection, that closeness, it's a powerful thing. When it's missing, it can trigger what some experts call a silent downward spiral. This doesn't just hit our sexual resilience, it can seep into our mental, emotional, and physical strength, potentially. And this is a big one, even stealing years from our life. Could a lack of intimacy actually age us faster? Now, this might sound a bit dramatic, but hear me out. Evidence suggests that neglecting sexual health can actually play a part in accelerating the aging process. We're talking about a faster loss of strength, a dip in our get up and go, and a general decline in that feeling of well-being. It's like our bodies start to wind down a bit quicker than they need to. And here's something that really made me sit up and take notice. It might even shorten your lifespan. I know, sounds like a headline grabber, right? But some studies have shown that older adults who maintain regular sexual intimacy have significantly lower mortality rates. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Could this part of our lives, the part that's often dismissed as just for the young, actually be a key to living longer and feeling better while we do it? It's a question worth pondering. When intimacy takes a back seat, it's not just our mood or our relationships that can feel the strain. Our physical health can start to show some wear and tear in ways we might not expect. It's all connected, more than we often realize. Your heart might not be so happy. Let's talk about the ticker. Our cardiovascular system, the heart, the blood vessels, is definitely affected by our level of intimacy. Think of regular sexual activity, and this includes self-pleasure as a kind of gentle cardio workout. It gets the blood circulating, can help lower blood pressure, and even helps keep our arteries a bit more elastic and flexible. It's like a natural tune-up. But what happens when that workout stops? Well, the heart can become more susceptible to the daily grind of stress, to inflammation, which we're learning is a bad guy in so many health issues, and over the long haul to more serious heart disease. It's a sobering thought. Now here's a little aside, a word of caution. If it's been a while and you're thinking of rekindling things, or maybe you've got some underlying health stuff going on, spontaneity is great, but sometimes it can put a sudden demand on your system. We're talking dizziness, weakness, maybe even heart palpitations if you overdo it right out of the gate. In rare cases, for folks with pre-existing conditions, it could even trigger a cardiac event. So ease into it, listen to your body, and if you've got concerns, have a chat with your doctor. It's always better to be safe. And while we're on the topic of heart health, here's something interesting. Erectile dysfunction, or ED, can sometimes be a very sensitive early warning sign. It can indicate issues with blood flow throughout the body, which could point to underlying heart health problems. So, if things aren't working as they should downstairs, don't just brush it off as getting older. It might be your body's way of waving a little red flag. Think of it as your body's own check engine light. Probably a good idea to get it checked out. Hormones. We hear about them all the time, especially for women, but fellas, they're crucial for us too. And guess what? Sexual activity plays a pretty vital role in keeping them regulated. Testosterone is the big one we often think about, and it's true. Without that regular stimulation, whether with a partner or on your own, testosterone levels can start to dip, sometimes even plummet. And when T levels go down, it's not pretty. We're talking about feeling tired all the time, unexplained weight gain, especially that stubborn belly fat, getting irritable over little things, and even feeling down or depressed. It's a whole package of not-so-fun symptoms. But it's not just testosterone. The absence of that hormonal activity, the kind you get from self-pleasure too, can lead to a slow, creeping decline in your emotional well-being. You might notice more anxiety, that irritability we mentioned, maybe even a kind of emotional numbness. Some guys report issues with memory and focus, and a general hit to their physical resilience. It's like your body's internal orchestra is missing a few key players, and the whole symphony is out of tune. The prostate predicament. The prostate. That little gland that most of us don't think twice about until it starts causing trouble. But as we age, it definitely demands a bit more of our attention. It's vital for both reproductive and urinary health, so keeping it happy is important. So, what happens if ejaculation, whether through sex or masturbation, pretty much stops altogether? Well, the prostate can kind of stagnate. Fluids can build up, leading to discomfort, a feeling of pressure, and unfortunately a higher risk of inflammation or even infection, sometimes called prostate congestion. Nobody wants that. Over time, this lack of activity can also be a contributing factor to benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH, which is the fancy term for an enlarged prostate. And as many of you know, BPH can really interfere with urination. Frequent trips to the bathroom, trouble starting, a weak stream. It's a common complaint, but not something you just have to live with. Now, here's a little nuance, because life's rarely black and white. While regular release is generally good for prostate health, it's also worth mentioning that improper masturbation habits can sometimes cause irritation. We're talking about things like using too much pressure, consistently delaying ejaculation, or always rushing things. So like with many things in life, it's about finding a healthy balance. Muscles, joints, and moving around. We all know the saying, use it or lose it, right? Well, it applies to more than just your golf swing or your ability to remember names. It applies to our sexual function too. When that part of our lives goes dormant, muscles can begin to weaken more quickly and joints can become stiffer. This isn't just about sexual performance. It can lead to a decline in overall mobility and, you guessed it, an increased risk of injury from everyday activities. Think of your sexual system like any other muscle group in your body. If you stop working it, it begins to shut down. What does that look like physiologically? Blood vessels in the area can start to narrow, nerve endings can become less responsive, and tissues can lose their elasticity and tone. For some men, this can eventually result in the penis becoming numb, less responsive, or even experiencing pain or discomfort. It's a bit unsettling, but the body can, in a way, forget how to function sexually if it's not called upon to do so. And here's another gentle reminder, similar to the prostate point. Just as inactivity can be an issue, overdoing it in the wrong way can also cause problems. For instance, really vigorous or rushed self-pleasure, especially if you're tensing up a lot, can strain the pelvic floor muscles. Most guys don't even think about their pelvic floor muscles, but they're super important for bladder control and sexual function. Straining them can lead to urinary difficulties, discomfort in the groin area, or even incontinence. So again, awareness and a bit of gentleness can go a long way. Could a lack of intimacy weaken your immune system? This one might surprise you. Lacking intimacy can quietly, almost sneakily weaken your body's natural defense system. We're talking about your immune system, the internal army that fights off bugs and keeps you healthy. There's actually some pretty interesting research showing that regular sexual activity is linked to higher levels of something called immunoglobulin A, IgA. IgA is an antibody that plays a key role in defending against common invaders like colds and other infections. So more IgA generally means a more robust first line of defense. Beyond that, sexual activity helps support balanced hormone levels, as we've discussed, and can reduce inflammation throughout the body. When that regular boost is missing, the immune system can become a bit sluggish, a bit less ready to pounce when germs attack. And here's an emotional link. If there's any guilt or shame tied up with your thoughts around sex or self-pleasure, and we'll dig into that more later, that emotional stress can trigger a surge in cortisol, the body's main stress hormone. And what does cortisol do in excess? Among other things, it weakens the immune system. It's all interconnected. How's your sleep these days? For a lot of men over 60, getting a good night's rest can feel like a real battle. Tossing and turning, waking up feeling like you've barely slept a wink. Sound familiar? Well, here's another place where a lack of sexual release can play a role. When you experience orgasm, your body releases a wonderful cocktail of hormones and neurochemicals, including prolactin, oxytocin, often called the cuddle hormone, and serotonin. These goodies are nature's own relaxation aids. They promote calm, reduce stress and anxiety, and importantly, help you drift off to sleep. So, if that release isn't happening, your body is essentially missing out on its natural nightcap. This can lead directly to those restless nights, the constant shifting to find a comfortable spot, and waking up feeling exhausted before the day has even begun. It's a frustrating cycle because poor sleep then impacts everything else, from your energy levels to your mood. The emotional and mental toll we can't ignore. But it's not just our bodies that feel the impact when intimacy fades. Our minds, our emotions, our very sense of self can take a significant hit. This is often the part that's hardest to talk about, but it's incredibly important. Is your mind aging faster than it should? This is a big one, and honestly, a bit scary to consider. The idea that without regular sexual stimulation, our brains might actually begin to age faster. What's the connection? Well, sexual activity, much like other forms of physical activity, increases blood flow to the brain. More blood flow means more oxygen and nutrients, which is always a good thing for brain health. But there's more. Orgasm triggers the release of a whole host of beneficial neurochemicals, things like dopamine, the pleasure and reward chemical, that lovely oxytocin we just talked about, and endorphins, natural mood boosters and pain relievers. This chemical cocktail doesn't just feel good, it actively boosts mood, reduces stress, and some research suggests it may even help protect the brain from the wear and tear of aging. So, what happens when this natural brain stimulation is absent? The brain can, in a sense, slow down. You might notice your focus isn't as sharp as it used to be, your energy levels take a nosedive, and this is the really concerning part. There could be an increased risk of cognitive decline and even conditions like early dementia. Furthermore, the emotional isolation that can accompany a lack of intimacy can contribute to brain fog, that feeling of mental sluggishness, and overall fatigue, potentially paving the way for an earlier decline in brain function. It makes you think, doesn't it? Stress and anxiety. Life's full of stress. That's a given. Mortgages, health concerns, family stuff, the list goes on. Intimacy, in its many forms, is actually one of the most effective natural stress relievers we have at our disposal. That physical connection, that release, it works wonders for taking the edge off. But when that outlet isn't there, well, stress levels can stay chronically high. Sleep, as we've seen, often gets shallow and unrefreshing, which then makes us less resilient to stress. Small worries can suddenly feel overwhelming, like mountains instead of molehills. And this isn't just a feeling. The absence of this physical outlet for tension can manifest in very real physical ways. A constant sense of restlessness, irritability, that short fuse again, tension headaches and muscle aches and pains, especially in the neck and shoulders. It's your body screaming for a release valve. Remember that cortisol we talked about? If feelings of guilt or shame are part of your experience around sex or self-pleasure, that's a direct trigger for cortisol. And high cortisol doesn't just make you feel stressed, it actively ruins your mood, can suppress testosterone levels, creating a vicious cycle, raises blood pressure, and even interferes with memory and concentration. And for some guys, performance anxiety during masturbation itself can, ironically, release cortisol, making it harder for the body to relax and respond naturally. This can create a really frustrating loop of disappointment and more anxiety. Emotional disconnection and fading well-being. This one cuts deep for a lot of men. When intimacy fades, it's not uncommon to start feeling detached, almost like you're a caretaker of your body rather than actually living in it. It's a strange, unsettling feeling. A lack of intimacy can also chip away at your sense of self-worth. You might start to feel a subtle or not-so-subtle sense of being invisible, as if you don't quite matter in the same way anymore. This is particularly true for many seniors who find that as intimacy fades, they grapple with loneliness, depression, and a reduced sense of identity and purpose. It's as if a vital part of who they are has gone missing. And here's a trap some men fall into: masturbating out of a sense of loneliness or as a quick fix for stress, rather than from a place of genuine desire or connection, even connection with oneself. When this happens, it can sometimes lead to a kind of emotional numbness. Instead of feeling better, it can deepen feelings of isolation and make it even harder to seek out real companionship or genuine emotional connection. You know what they say, emotional hunger can't truly be satisfied by physical release alone. It's like trying to quench a deep thirst with a single drop of water. It just doesn't cut it. When men cut themselves off from that emotional layer of intimacy, whether with a partner or within themselves, they can, in a very real sense, begin to wither. This isn't just poetic language. Chronic emotional isolation and the lack of fulfilling intimacy are linked to an increased risk of depression, those persistently higher cortisol levels we keep mentioning, a weaker immune response, elevated blood pressure, and yes, even an earlier decline in brain function. It's a heavy price to pay. Confidence crisis. Let's be honest, our sense of ourselves as men is often, for better or worse, tied up with our vitality, our strength, and yes, our sexuality. So when physical intimacy wanes, it can deal a real blow to our confidence. That feeling of invisibility we talked about, it feeds right into self-doubt. Men might start to internalize the idea that their best years are definitively behind them. They might find themselves avoiding mirrors, shying away from affection, or just generally feeling less sure of themselves in all sorts of situations, not just romantic ones. And if there have been attempts at intimacy that didn't go as planned, perhaps issues with performance or a partner's lack of interest, those moments can be a significant blow to a man's identity, his confidence, and his overall emotional well-being. It can lead to feelings of weakness, embarrassment, and a deep, lingering sense of shame. It can feel like a personal failure, even when, in reality, there are often many factors at play. The pornography paradox and lingering shame. The world has changed a lot, and how we access and think about sexuality has changed with it. There are a couple of modern elephants in the room that we need to address when we talk about intimacy and men over 60. The impact of pornography overuse. Okay, this is a sensitive one, and there's no judgment here, but we have to talk about it. The internet has made pornography incredibly accessible. For some, it might feel like a private way to manage sexual needs, especially if partnered intimacy isn't happening. However, regular use of highly stimulating pornography, especially when it's consumed in isolation and becomes a primary outlet, can actually reshape how the brain responds to pleasure, intimacy, and arousal. Think of it this way. A lot of internet porn is designed to be extreme, to show novelty, to hit those pleasure centers hard and fast. Over time, the brain can get used to this high level of stimulation, and then real-life intimacy, which is often gentler, more nuanced, and emotionally connected, can start to feel, well, less exciting. It can lead to a need for more and more intensity just to achieve the same level of satisfaction or arousal. This is classic desensitization. This isn't just a theory. It can have real-world consequences. It can, for some men, effectively destroy natural sexual reflexes. It can lead to arousal fatigue, where the body just doesn't respond like it used to. The brain can become almost rigid in what it expects, no longer responding easily to natural cues from a partner or even to loving physical touch. It's like your taste buds get so used to incredibly spicy food that everything else starts to taste bland. The real danger here is that this pattern can quietly rewire the brain in ways that undermine genuine intimacy. It can erode a man's confidence in his ability to connect authentically and be present with a partner, ultimately hindering the deep sense of fulfillment that true intimacy can bring. The emotional burden of shame and guilt. This is another big one, and it often has deep roots. Many men, especially those of us who grew up in earlier decades, carry a silent burden of guilt and shame around self-pleasure. These feelings are often rooted in past beliefs, perhaps religious upbringing, or societal messages we absorbed without even realizing it. Even if intellectually a man knows that masturbation is a normal and healthy part of human sexuality, those old tapes can play in the background, creating emotional tension. And here's the kicker. That internal conflict, that unresolved guilt, can actually hinder any of the potential physical or psychological benefits of the act itself. This emotional spiral doesn't just damage the spirit, it tangibly changes body chemistry. Remember cortisol? Guilt and shame are potent triggers for cortisol surges, and as we've seen, excess cortisol has a whole range of negative impacts. It can mess with your mood, suppress your testosterone, hike up your blood pressure, weaken your immune system, and even cloud your memory. It's a heavy backpack to carry, and it affects far more than just your thoughts about sex. The ripple effects in relationships. For those of us in long-term relationships, the decline of intimacy isn't just a personal issue. It's a couple's issue. It can change the whole dynamic, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. Fading emotional intimacy in partnerships. When physical intimacy dries up, the emotional bond between partners can and often does weaken. It's a sad truth. Couples who once shared that deep connection can start to feel more like roommates, going through the motions of life together, but without that special spark. Conversations might become more routine, focused on logistics rather than feelings. Spontaneous affection, a casual touch, a loving glance, can become scarce. That spark, the one that made your relationship feel vibrant and alive, can begin to dim. And the result? One or both partners can end up feeling neglected, undesired, or just plain lonely, even when they're sharing the same bed. This emotional distance, if left unaddressed, can continue to grow, creating a chasm of unspoken feelings, misunderstandings, and often deep-seated resentment. It's a painful place to be. When relationships become fragile, that lack of intimacy, and especially the silence that often surrounds it, can make the entire relationship feel incredibly fragile. It's like a crucial support beam has been removed from the structure. The laughter, the playfulness, those spontaneous moments of joy and connection that once brought so much life to the relationship can be replaced by a heavy silence or a predictable, uninspired routine. The ease is gone, replaced by a kind of carefulness, as if you're both walking on eggshells, afraid to say or do the wrong thing. Here's the thing. Intimacy, in its broadest sense, including but not limited to sex, is like the glue that helps keep relationships vibrant, resilient, and emotionally fulfilling. It's what helps you weather the storms together. Without it, things can start to come unstuck. The small annoyances become bigger, the shared joys feel less shared, and the foundation of the partnership can begin to crack. Okay, so what now? It's not too late. That was a lot, I know, and some of it might have hit pretty close to home. If you're sitting there thinking, wow, this is me, or I've felt some of that, please know you're not alone. And more importantly, please know that this isn't some irreversible life sentence. Recognizing these consequences, really letting them sink in, is the absolute first, most crucial step toward reclaiming your health, your confidence, and a fulfilling life in your later years. The power of talking about it. The biggest hurdle for many of us is simply the silence. We don't talk about this stuff. Not with our partners, not with our mates, sometimes not even with our doctors. But that silence, it's not helping anyone. So what's the antidote? Conversation. Talk to your partner. If you have one, this is ground zero. It might be awkward at first, sure, but expressing how you feel, what you miss, what your concerns are, it can open doors you thought were permanently closed. Use I statements. I feel. I miss. Talk to a trusted friend. Sometimes just voicing these things to another guy who might be going through something similar can be incredibly validating. Talk to your doctor. This is a big one. Your doctor is a healthcare professional. They've heard it all. Whether it's concerns about ED, low testosterone, prostate issues, or just wanting to understand how your health impacts your sexuality, and vice versa, they can offer medical advice, tests, and potential solutions. Don't let embarrassment hold you back from getting the care you deserve. Destigmatizing this topic starts with us. The more we talk openly and honestly, the less power the silence holds. Reclaiming your health, small steps can have a big impact. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight, but small, consistent steps in the right direction can make a world of difference. Focus on overall health. It all works together. A heart-healthy diet, regular physical activity, even just a brisk walk every day, getting enough sleep, which, ironically, improving intimacy can help with, managing stress, these all support better sexual health. Re-engage gently. Remember the use it or lose it principle? Well, the good news is, it's often more like use it again, and it'll come back again. If things have been dormant for a while, think about gentle re-engagement. This might mean more self-pleasure, focusing on sensation and relaxation rather than any kind of performance goal. Patience is key. If you're trying to rekindle intimacy with a partner or even just with yourself, be patient. It might take time. There might be some trial and error. That's okay. It's so much more than just sex. This is a really important one, especially as we get older. We often get stuck on a very narrow definition of intimacy, equating it solely with penetrative sex. But intimacy is so much broader, so much richer than that. Think about affectionate touch, holding hands, cuddling on the sofa, a hug, a gentle caress. These things are incredibly powerful for connection. Emotional connection, deep conversations, sharing vulnerabilities, really listening to each other, laughing together. Shared experiences, doing things you both enjoy, creating new memories, working as a team. Sensual exploration. This could be massage, mutual exploration without the pressure of intercourse, focusing on pleasure in all its forms. Expanding your definition of intimacy can open up a whole new world of connection and satisfaction, regardless of what is or isn't happening in terms of traditional sex. A final thought. Listen, navigating the changes that come with aging isn't always easy, but when it comes to intimacy and your sexual health, please remember this. It's not a frivolous extra. It's a fundamental part of your overall physical, mental, and emotional well-being. You deserve to feel good, to feel connected, to feel vital for all the years you have. It's never too late to pay attention to this part of your life, to seek information, to make changes, or to reach out for help if you need it. Your health, your happiness, and yes, your intimacy matter. Don't let anyone, including yourself, tell you otherwise.